Awesome.
Cool.
I'm a bit louder than you know.
I think we're okay.
I think we're okay. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for showing up. Really exciting times. Really excited to be here, entertain all of you. We here have Jordan, the founder of Vapi. We should thank him for hosting us.
Thank you so much for coming out. I hope this doesn't echo too much. And I also hope my throat is not too bad. I caught something from last week, so I might cough at some point, but I'll try my best.
Just try to cough, not into the mic.
No, that would be weird, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. All right, I have a bunch of questions prepped for you. As a founder, a lot of people probably want to be like you, make a company that is hosting events in a huge office like this. A bunch of people walking here. Yeah, a bunch of people walking here today, and they're like, man, I want to have an office like this one day. But anyway, I'm gonna go all the way back. What was the original pitch for Vapi during YC, and how much things have changed since then?
Oh, it's a lot, yeah. I mean, I can start there. Do you want me to just go through the whole thing?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, yeah, sure. So when we applied to YC, it actually started as a platform called Better Invest, and that's what we filled out the YC application for. And the idea was like people want to buy baskets of stocks for like different verticals, and then kind of like buy them as like little mini indexes. So that's what we walked in with. That ended up scoring us the YC interview, which is great. And then by the time we actually got to the YC interview itself, we completely pivoted to something else. And it was a lecture platform for teachers to send lectures to their students. And then after we got into YC, we pivoted again like 6 to 8 more times. And then it ended up being a button to join meetings really quickly.
But the stock thing was the one that got you to YC.
That's what I applied with, and then we got in with the lecture platform. Yeah.
This is a good demonstration of how you got to pivot like 8 times.
Yeah, I mean, totally over like 5 years, probably at least a dozen times overall. Yeah.
That is crazy. Okay, but so you built the stock thing. What was your product back then, and why did you decide to switch off that and build something else?
We actually didn't really build much of anything. It was really just an idea, and that got us kind of the YC interview. And then when we got into the YC interview, we had like this lecture platform queued up, and we were like, oh yeah, we have like 3 of our professors at Waterloo who are like ready to use it, lined up for pilots. We kind of just made that up and got like soft okays that they would try to use it. But I think they were just mostly impressed with our team. We were 5 technical co-founders. I think they were more just betting on us rather than our idea. Which I mean, like given how it turned out, I mean that's probably the biggest thing to bet on is just like solid founders who are willing to try for long enough.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that people also got to get right is finding the right partners.
Yeah.
Business. Tell us about how you found your co-founders.
Yeah, is Nikhil? I don't think Nikhil's here. He's probably coding. It's like a good co-founder. I have always been AGI built since I was like 15 years old. I found this article from Tim Urban. It was inspired by Ray Kurzweil's work, and it's like 30 pages long. It's a brilliant read, way back in 2015. And he's like, AGI is coming 100%. Look at the trends. And I'm like, hell yes, this is my religion. Got it. And so when I showed up at Waterloo in my first day in residence, I overheard this guy talking about AGI, and I was like, oh, fuck yeah, that's my guy, that's it. And then I struck up a conversation with him, and we had this like amazing, weird chemistry where he is a very like abstract thinker, and I'm a very concrete thinker, and together we just had some really great conversations. And over the years, got to know each other. Eventually, I think it was in my 3rd year of school, I kind of just called him on the phone and I was like, dude, let's just drop out of school and do a startup. And that's kind of how the whole thing started.
And he just bought in?
Oh yeah, he was like, yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's how you know you found the right guy.
Yeah.
Cool. What would be your advice for people here today who are looking to find their co-founder that is going to build with them, stick with them through all the pivots?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing is just pick someone that you already know really, really well, because it really is a marriage, and you just want to have as much raw time as possible with that person, both to know if you're compatible, but also to build confidence that you can build the skills of collaborating with them, and that skill is greater than the detractors that make you not work together, if that makes sense. So you should be able to see enough data that there's an upward trend in your relationship over time. And nothing is better than just having people who have already been in your life for a long time, who you trust, who you know are very good. But if you can't, the priority is spend every waking moment, if you are confident in them, spend every waking moment that you possibly can with them to continue just gathering data, live in the same room, just really go hardcore at it, so that you can just have a firm answer in like a month or less.
Right on. So you pivoted to being a button for meetings, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Why did you pivot to that?
Well, I had no fucking idea, and I was, I got to YC, we had no idea that actually made sense, and so we were just like throwing like 12, 13 different things at the wall, and eventually we ended up being late to a bunch of user interviews that we were kind of spraying, trying to find ideas, and we were like, oh, interesting, maybe this is a problem that we could try solving, and one guy on the team kind of built like a little menu bar button that like flashed right before a meeting, and then when you clicked it, it just joins your meeting. And it's like, at the time, it was way faster than the 12-step process to join a Zoom meeting. And that really tiny amount of value, we were able to convince our group partner, Gustav, to spend $20 a month on. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, there's something here. It's probably not that valuable, but it is valuable to this guy for some reason. And it was valuable to the YC partner because he had meetings like every day, like 12 times a day. And being late to those meetings is actually like pretty bad for him. And so for him it was valuable, this minor amount of value. And so we ended up raising money on that. We got it to about 2,000 weekly active users. And then over the years it just kind of kept growing and growing. We layered on like growth hacks and all sorts of stuff like that. And then eventually when ChatGPT came along, it evolved into an AI note taker. And then over the next couple of years, we grew to about $500,000 in revenue and about 10,000 weekly active users total.
Oh wow, that's quite a bit of growth.
Yeah, it grew a lot. I think the mistake that we had made with that product was we invested a lot in growth and not in like retention or like just building a really good product. And so what it ended up turning into, being a founder optimizing for growth, was a little kernel of value surrounded by like a thick layer of just like virus to make it spread. And I think the problem with that is you do get a lot of short-term growth by investing in these growth hacks early on, but ultimately you're investing in a leaky bucket. And so it wasn't really a business that we could get anyone to pay more than 10, 20 bucks a month on. And for that reason, we eventually just decided to shut it down.
So I heard that there's this saying in Bay Area that is considered quite popular, a belief that you should build it and they will come. But it sounds like you did sort of the opposite. You invested all in on the growth and didn't invest as many resources into the product. So would you disagree with this statement then?
So the statement is like build it, and they will come to you. Actually, that's counter to YC advice.
Yeah.
YC advice more generally is find a user that you care about and learn about the problem, and then build that in response. Because if you just solve the problem, then that's like product market fit. So I think what we had solved was a very small problem, which was like, I want to join meetings quickly. But then we stopped listening to users and we were like, okay, now the problem is, I as a startup founder want to grow fast, and I'm not growing fast. And it kind of like bastardized the one beautiful kernel that we had.
I see. All right, so how did we get to Vapi from there?
Oh my God, yeah. So crazy story. We had grown it to be like a sustainable business. I was working kind of 9 to 5 at the time. It was like a good life overall. And I think just sitting in my heart, I felt like I knew I was made for more. And so when I had a chat with my group partner, Michael Seibel at the time, he kind of sat us down. It was like 11 p.m. For like a good 2 hours. He was just like talking at us and was like, look, it's been 3 years. You guys have achieved like basically nothing in the grander scheme of startups. You don't have any idea who your customer is, you don't care about who your customer is, and you seem like you don't really like give a shit about just driving this forward. And he was just like totally right. And he's like, well, make a decision right now. Do you want to devote your life to this, or do you want to work on something else? And I was like, I want to devote my life to winning at something, because I fucking love this. And so over a 2-week period, we decided to move from Toronto down to San Francisco, hit complete like reset, gave all 500K back to all of our users, and then just tried to find out what we were going to do with our lives. And in that process, was about 3 months of waiting around in the darkness, trying to see what we were gonna build. Me and Nikhil would be up like late at night in our Airbnb, watching like Macintosh videos, and being like, "How did Steve pull it off? How did he do it?" We couldn't crack that. And there were some moments where Nikhil and I were like going to food banks in SF, just trying to find like problems to solve. Like it got like really weird for a while. And eventually I ended up at a hackathon in the Taylor building.
Woo! Hackathons.
Yeah, oh yeah, thank you. And I was walking around outside the hackathon, I couldn't think of any good ideas. And I was on my phone and I saw Pi. Pi was like this like coach assistant thing at the time that was popular from Inflection. And I was like, I bet this conversation thing sucks if I put it in headphones right now. And I just put it in headphones, I was like, I want to talk this through. And I tried talking to it, and it like interrupted me, and like it made a beep sound, and then I had to wait for its response. I was like, this is fucking terrible. Like there must be a better way to do this. And I kind of just imagined like, okay, what if it was really, really good? And then I just kind of like raced home, and I looked for open source projects. There was nothing that existed, and I just kind of decided to build it. And so I stitched together all these models. I benchmarked all the latency of these underlying providers, and I found a way to get it behind a Twilio phone number. And then I went for a walk with my therapist. I named him Harmon, and short for Harmony, because he's, I don't know. And we talked for about 2 hours every day, me and my AI therapist. And the rest of the day I would just like go home and code and just make it better, because that's what I do when I'm sad. And I kept doing that for roughly 3 or 4 weeks. And I would say to Nikhil, like, look, you need to talk to Harmon. I would give him like the phone number to go talk to him, go to walk with, and he was like, okay, I think there's like something here. Like I had like an interesting conversation with this thing. And this was before ChatGPT voice. So basically I just proved that voice mode was important. That was like, that's what came out of that. And so we thought we were gonna sell a therapy platform. That therapy platform didn't really take off. I would drop contact cards to random people on the bus, hoping that anybody would call it. And of course, like one person did, was like, what the fuck is this? And but I met this startup founder, Atul and Shri from Hyperbound. They were like a S21 or S22 company. They were pivoting around, and they wanted to build this AI sales roleplay tool to help salespeople like practice. And I was like, well, how are you doing that? Like, oh, we're stitching together all these different models, and I'm like, oh, I know that story. I did it myself, and then I tried theirs, and it was garbage. And I was like, mine is so much better. Do you want to call this? And he's like, holy shit. So I ended up ripping the therapist layer off of it, and then hosting the infrastructure piece as an API. And that ended up being exactly what they needed to then close the 10K contract. And it was like, okay, like this is cool. I'll look for other startups. And there were like 3 startups at the time that were building this stack in-house. Found all 3 of them, convinced them to use our infrastructure. And that's kind of where the whole thing started. Yeah.
Wow, AI therapist. I'm still surprised that you built an AI therapist. And when was that? What kind of models were available back then?
Oh, you just had, I think, vanilla GPT-4 and 3.5 turbo.
Wow.
So, but GPT-4 specifically, I remember on one of my blogs, most of the responses were like, okay, that's iffy. But I had one that was like, the way that, by your word choice, I can tell you're trying to distance yourself from your emotions by speaking in the third person. I was like, whoa, what? And that was my moment. I clicked. I was like, wow, okay, these models can do things and understand things about me that I couldn't have given it over the text medium, because I just don't feel as open over it. So that gave me the insight that voice was important.
Incredible. And yet another pivot to voice infrastructure.
Yeah.
That is incredible. What happened then? Like, what was your team like at the moment? Like, how many people were on the team?
Just me and Nikhil. Yeah.
Just you and Nikhil?
Yeah.
Wow. How did you split responsibilities?
We were both building.
What happened to the 3 other guys?
Sorry?
What happened to the 3 other guys?
Oh yeah, if you look on our page, we had 5 co-founders like way at the start when we did Superpower. But they kind of dropped off one by one, and then one ended up leaving because they didn't want to move to SF. So it was just kind of me and Nikhil at the end of the day.
Thanks.
Yeah, going back to finding good co-founders, right?
Yeah, totally.
Not everybody's going to stick through the journey. That's fine. That's part of life. Cool. So how did you find product market fit with that? I mean, you closed a few contracts, right? You got a few startups to use Vapi. How'd you grow from there?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I feel like the concept of product market fit has kind of been, it always feels like something that's like extremely out of reach, and I felt like I was chasing it with my past startup for like years. Like, oh, it's just if only we had this, like we would have product market fit, or like, oh, do I have it? Do I not? And I feel like what I came to realize was like with Vapi, we had product market fit immediately. We had product market fit with one company who really needed to get their product live, or their whole company would die. And so whenever we went down, Atul would call me on the phone at like 4 a.m. and be like, yo, your shit is down. And then I had to run upstairs to Nikhil's bedroom and knock on his door to get the infrastructure working. So it's like a 9 out of 10 pain just for one person. And so I think, like personally, that is a better framework for product market fit. It's just like that on solving for one deeply and then growing your pool over time.
Okay, what was your first hire then? It was just you two. Who'd you hire?
My first hire, I think it might have been Sagar, from a founding engineer on our team. If he's here, yeah. I don't know, but he was a XYC founder, and so he had been working on another crypto startup before, and we started talking to him, and he was great, so we brought him on board. I think one of our other early hires was Sahil. He would just help people on our Discord that we opened up just like for free, and he just did that all day. And we were like, dude, do you want to just like work for us and like get paid for this? And he's like, yeah, totally. So we ended up bringing him on the team as well, and then now we're trying to sponsor his visa to have him come over.
Yeah. One thing I know as a Vapi insider is that you're looking for people who act like founders.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about your principle and why you're looking for it in your hires?
Yeah, I mean, this is the reason he says that is because that's like one of our values, act like a founder. Founders have this innate ability to, when given a big task or whatever, they can just like figure it out. And I feel like having a team full of folks who are either have been founders before or like want to be founders in the future, and I see this as like kind of training for that. They have just like absolutely excelled on our team in particular. Just because like this environment that we are in is incredibly uncertain. It's very difficult, especially for folks who come from larger companies, especially in this AI wave when everything's super thrashy, and those who have the skills to be a founder just tend to be better at dealing with those uncertainties.
Cool. Going back to all the pivots that you guys have made, there were probably a few moments I would call despair when you were not sure about whether or not you want to move forward, whether or not you can move forward, whether or not things are going to work out. What would be your advice for overcoming this anxiety, this fear of failing?
That's probably the hardest part, especially early on when you have no signal at all from anybody, and the signal mostly comes from within. The feeling that you're looking for, me and Nikhil just call it like conviction, and conviction can kind of be gained, if that makes sense. Throughout the journey, you need to constantly be looking for things that can reinforce your conviction along the way. Otherwise, it gets too hypothetical and it gets weak over time. So when I say that, I mean like talking to more customers so that you get real data so that can then support your hypothesis that does evolve over time. Like actually making revenue does make you feel more confident that you're doing the right thing. And so like, you know, that's what YC usually says is like, talk to your customers and build for them so that you can, you know, reinforce that by capturing value. And the market value you capture, the more confident you start to feel that you're onto something.
Right. So how does one work through that feeling? How does one maintain the momentum during the rough weeks?
Having a co-founder helps a lot. I feel like throughout this whole journey, there have been moments when I was in just complete despair and had nothing left to give, and I was ready to throw in the towel, and then Nikhil has held the torch in moments. One happened like a few weeks ago, honestly, where there were just some difficult moments in the company, and Nikhil really like held that for me. And there were moments when Nikhil was ready to give up too, like along the way. Like when GPT-4o audio came out. We were like, what are we gonna do with our lives? I'm like, I don't know, but let's just like keep going and just see like what happens. And that ended up being the right call too. So I feel like having a co-founder relationship helps a lot.
Beautiful. If you could go back to the very beginning, since when you got into IC, what would be one piece of advice you would give yourself that you wish you knew then?
I wish I had been more ambitious, I think, the first time around. I think I underestimated what I was capable of. And I love those ways that Sam Altman puts this. It's like, pick the crazy sci-fi idea and then just figure out like how to do it along the way. I think that's way better than what we did, which was the greedy algorithm of let's just like pick like anything that looks like value and then just like kind of just like slowly inch ourselves up. Because you can get really caught in a local maxima and not realize that there's much bigger opportunities. So there's a combination of you need to have a very large vision, but then also find ways to prove your hypotheses along the way with users towards that vision, if that makes sense. Is that clear?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Being more ambitious is, in general, just a good advice for anything in life, I think.
Yeah, and I think like for me and Akil, we had decided to move our lives. We decided, like I lived with Parker at the time, like it was just like the stakes just suddenly just got like really high. And I had like no friends, no family, nothing. I mean, I do have family, yes, but like not here in SF. And so for me, it was like, well, okay, if I'm going to sacrifice all this, I'm going to put my life into this, and this is going to be the only thing that I do every moment for the next like couple of years. Fuck, it better be good, Like it better be something that's worth spending like the best years of my life on. And that helped.
Yeah,
Forced it to be a big deal.
makes a lot of sense. All right, we're approaching the end of the interview, but we are opening the floor for 5 minutes to take some questions from the audience. So I see a few people. Let me get you the mic.
Hi. So I actually tried it's very easy to try, it's on your website. So I interrupted it and talked to it for 5-10 minutes. And it was nice. Like it gave me proper responses. Even if I interrupted, it said go on. It was okay. Worked nice. I asked it a question that said like, are you a speech-to-text model or are you a multimodal model? Like, are you trained multimodally or are you like speech-to-text? Then, so it said speech-to-text. So I want to know, like, is it speech-to-text or is it multimodal?
Yeah, so we support both architectures. So whether you want to do the cascaded architecture and pick your own models, honestly, that's like 99% of traffic. Like 1% of traffic, you have folks using like the real-time API and Gemini Live. But honestly, the speech-to-speech models, I thought last year, that would be the majority. At the end of last year, it would be the majority of volume, but still, like the reliability is not there, and the configuration there isn't a lot of like customization available to make it worth it. So.
And so yeah, what was the answer to so you said that the advanced voice mode thing, so that came up, then you guys were thinking like, what do I do after advanced voice mode? And so what is the answer? What did you figure out?
What we came to realize was it's not really about, the value we were providing was not really about chaining models together and making them talk. Like that was part of it. But really what we did is we took models and we made them accessible to developers and enterprises to use, and startups to use, in a way that wasn't done before. And even in a world where we have speech-to-speech models, they're still really hard to wrangle. There's still so much tooling and observability and feature set needed on top. That was the key that we realized is that's all we're doing in general, is just being like 6 to 12 months ahead of whatever is publicly or open source available or what you can build yourself. And that in itself is enough value.
So even if OpenAI decides, okay, I'll provide an API for advanced voice mode, they still need to build the observability tooling and that.
Are they going to do phone numbers? It's like the last mile is really hard.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Ryan here. I'm building a crash desktop, just a crash desktop for AI agents. Vapi's actually one of our integrations. But I'm a fellow Torontonian myself, so I wanted to ask, like, what are the cultural shifts you see from moving to Toronto to SF?
Oh yeah, very different startup culture entirely. I feel like in Toronto, and it's probably like this in other parts of the States as well, maybe exception is New York, it was just okay to stand still. Nobody was really really striving to do something like crazy big. Like it is like you feel all right, just like being a lifestyle company, and then that's fine. I feel like here you always feel like you're falling a little bit behind if you're not sprinting. And I feel like that being reinforced and then that competitive pressure really just creates some amazing ideas and startups.
Do you still feel that way now?
Oh yeah, totally. Like this is like the epicenter in the world of like AI movement right now. Like if you're not feeling it in this room, it's like, it's here. Yeah.
Thank you.
So when you decided that you want to do voice agents, how did you justify to yourself that you're going to be doing it for the next 3 to 5 years, or 10 years? What was your narrative?
Yeah. It was a combination of two things. I kind of touched on this earlier, where we had like this long-term conviction, which was okay. Over time, models probably gonna get cheaper, probably gonna get faster, they're probably gonna get closer to human performance. If that happens, well, humans like to talk to stuff. So if those trends continue, humans will probably want to talk to these models. So that was kind of like the bet. It's like more people are going to want to start talking to stuff, more people are going to want to start building stuff that talks. So we knew directionally that gravity was going to start moving in that direction. We didn't know exactly like the path to follow, but we knew that even if we were tripping and falling, we would probably be okay. And it just so happened that the way that our tree grew towards that gravity was a developer platform, just because of like what we wanted to build.
Thank you.
Hi, so two really good questions. So firstly, if we do you think we should subscribe to the idea that like the voice-to-voice models get better, support function calling and interoperability better, and the chain architecture will become legacy? And if so, where do you think the biggest bottleneck with latency will be?
I think if you project out 5 years, probably cascade architecture will be like minority of volume. There are still some advantages that make it so customizable that it is worth using. I mean, the reason that people use our platform is because of configuration and infrastructure reliability. With speech-to-speech models right now, what are they bad at? Reliable infrastructure, and they're really bad at configurability. So when they do bridge that gap, I think you're going to see like much broader uptake of them, but it is going to take longer than we think.
Okay. And just a little follow-up, is that gap something that only the fundamental model makers can bridge, like 11 Labs, OpenAI, just something that a new player could perhaps come in and fix?
It is possible a new player could come along with the QTI lab based out of France is doing really interesting like continuous inference models, but honestly, it's likely just going to be OpenAI or one of these guys.
Thank you.
All right, time for one more question. Oh my God, that's a lot of hands. Here.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, you kind of touched on this. You said that Sam Altman said you need to have sort of like a big sci-fi vision. So what's your big sci-fi vision?
Yeah, great question. I think what we've started to hear from the market is that there's all these businesses in the world, and all these businesses have customers. The problem is communicating with those customers right now ends up, at the end of the day, always requiring this like last mile, like human universal interface to the internal business processes. What we're doing is we're helping to automate that universal interface, which what we call is just like conversational. And so, we see Vapi, first taking the voice component of that interface, and then probably also taking the chat component, like every channel, where we kind of eventually become an interaction platform, an interaction infrastructure platform, where companies who see this agentic interaction layer as strategic and something that they need to control across many different use cases, our bet is that they'll need a super flexible developer platform to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, nobody likes to be in a call center, right? So.
Yeah, it's rated one of the worst jobs in the world. Yeah, so
Great work.
yeah, awesome.
Alrighty, that will conclude our interview. Thank you so much, Jordan, for taking the questions. Thank you so much for asking questions, folks. Please enjoy yourself, crack some eggs, behave, and yeah, thank you, everybody.